level they're currently at right now. That's the whole point of this Twitter Spaces this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Arabile Kumete. I will be your host for this conversation as we get to some of the most integral parts, hopefully, of this conversation as we get you to understand your finances better. Allow Time Bank as a digital bank to use this digital space then to facilitate and enhance financial literacy and grow an understanding of banking just that little bit better. We've decided to create what is effectively going to be an open line across the board for you and I to get into conversation. But it's not just me who's going to be answering these questions. Thank goodness, because they could get very tough. I'm lucky enough to be joined by two Time Bank representatives. Cheslin Jacobs, who is the Executive Head of Sales and Service, joins us today. I also have Linda Api, who is the Head of Marketing at Time Bank as well. And both of them will hopefully get us to understand things a little bit better, not just from a Time Bank point of view, but truly as much as possible in banking too, where possible. They will try to answer as many of your questions here too. And please, from here on, the line is open. We'd like to get to know what your questions are. So please put those forward and we'll try to get to them from the onset. We have a full hour. We'll be with you until 3 o'clock. And don't forget the hashtag #CashClever. That's CLEVA, of course. In the Gussie tone, it's kind of cash clever. So hopefully we all get that one. So let's kick things off then. Cheslin, Linda, a good afternoon to both of you. Thank you so much for the time.
Good afternoon, Arabile. Thank you for having us, and good afternoon to everyone who's joined the space.
Yeah, good afternoon, and to everybody that's joined. Yeah, we're looking forward to getting this conversation going.
Fantastic. Sounds absolutely great. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why in the world do I have to pay somebody to hold my money for me? Cheslin?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great way to start the conversation to Arabile. And I think if I give you a strictly Time Bank answer, is that we don't believe you should as a consumer, and I think that's reflected in the way we've priced. So just for being a Time Bank customer, it costs you nothing, and we think it should be that way. We think it should be that way for everybody because, like you said, it's your money. You're choosing to be a customer of ours. We're not doing you a favor. You're doing us one, and our way of saying thank you is to actually make that free to be a customer of ours.
Yeah, and one can imagine then that because all other costs have really gone up. I mean, I just spoke about petrol, and that's hurting everybody, right? There isn't a single person who isn't going to feel it in some way or other, whether they have a vehicle or not. The emphasis here becomes things sometimes just change as and when they, sometimes the bank chooses. Is this a function of us not understanding and not knowing? Or is this really a function of the way the system works in Cheslin?
So I generally think it's a bit of both. Arabile, so that I think for many years in the South African banking system, I think it's being created that those kind of fees are normal. And it's one of the reasons why we started the bank. Is how do we create a new normal? And the interesting thing around, I suppose, new normals was probably one of the most overused phrases in the last 18, 19 months, considering the time that the world and our country has gone through from a COVID-19 perspective. But at the same time, I think in the age we live in, especially in this digital/information age, I think information is so much more widely available today, and what that allows us to do is to, I think, be much more empowered consumers, and with that, I think that allows us to make very sound decisions as to where we choose to spend our money, how we choose to spend it, what we choose to spend it on. And I think that's massively important for our journeys as individuals, for our journey as a country. And at the end of the day, I've always believed that regardless of how much money you make, I think everybody feels they work extremely hard to make that money. And in return, I believe your money should be working hard for you too. But to get that, it still needs you to act. And I think this is one of the big reasons why we decided to have a space of this nature, is to generate that dialogue, is to increase that curiosity amongst our customers, amongst our prospective customers, but also just to heighten the consciousnness of how powerful your behavior could be based on the decisions you make. So yeah, definitely a combination of both. I think the system has created this so-called norm that you ought to be paying for some of these things. And a lot of the work we're trying to do is to kind of debunk some of those norms and, let's say, create a new normal in banking.
Yeah. Linda, in trying to then market TymeBank, the difficulty must have been in certainly saying to people, we are different to all the others, we promise, right? And getting people to believe you. How do you sort of go through that field and say to yourselves, yeah, we've got the right proposition in place here?
I think Arabile makes it a little bit easier in the sense that the bank was built with the end in mind. So the fact that there aren't branches, etc., was actually built, or rather, the team focused on that to ensure that whatever money would have gone into putting down bricks and mortar, we could then use that money to rather make certain transactions free, but also to make sure that we deliver a value proposition where we have no monthly fees. And I would say that, before the introduction of the bank in Feb 2019, that really was an empty space. Yes, there was a lot of talk around, let's make sure that there are bank accounts that have low monthly fees, but I don't think there was an offering or a bank that did it as boldly as what TymeBank did. The fact that we feel that we can, stand deliver on the promises is just based on how we approach things, which is with the customer in mind, and also the fact that we actually have a lot of our transactions free. So things like your first debit card that you get is free. Your first cash deposit is free. Cash withdrawals at Pick n Pay and Boxer are free. Send money TymeBank to TymeBank customer is also free, and then also debit orders are free, as well as electronic payments to other TymeBank account holders. So I think it's a matter of looking, or as a customer, doing your homework and shopping for what really works and suits your pocket. And the research trends are showing us that with the impact of COVID, you may think that 50 Rand is nothing, but it's actually something. It's a meal. And what's happening is, yes, we are attracting people who are looking to pay very low bank charges, but at the same time, we are also attracting individuals who don't want to pay for unnecessary frills. So people who used to pay 300 and 400 Rand in private banking fees, and they've actually realized that it's not worth it, and they're just looking for something that's less complicated.
And I suppose in a time where COVID-19 came about, all the other benefits of the other so-called banks, I suppose, kind of lost significance, right?
Yeah, definitely. And as customers, I think customers have actually won this race, because what has happened is that the introduction of TymeBank has disrupted the market, and it's forced other banks to rethink their own offerings. And without mentioning names, I mean, you would see that there's a lot more focus on, digital accounts, a lot more focus on accounts that don't have fees, etc. And if anything, I think if TymeBank didn't come in and say there's a need to take care of this type of customer, they wouldn't have recognized that. And I think the fact that they're offering those products means that there's more choice for the customer.
More choice is always a good thing, because that's more competition. It then also means that the customer gets the best value proposition and also the best pricing, I suppose, in the long run, because that is the choice you get to make. Again, folks, to all of you that are listening, we have said that please do send in your questions. Do ask us those questions. Ask to speak, and we will hopefully try to get you in as well on this conversation and get either Cheslin or Linda to answer your questions too. It's not just all about TymeBank, but TymeBank certainly offering up the right platform to have this conversation so that all of us can be just a little bit of a hashtag clevernyana. All right, Cheslin, what then goes into banking fees?
Yeah, so with us at Arabile, we try and as Linda mentioned, make as many of them as free as possible. But at the same time, when we kind of sit down and decide what we want this to look like for our customers, is we look at a set of behaviors we think is best for both, so best for the customer, best for the business, and then price accordingly, right, to create, call it, certain behaviors. Now we often get the question is, if so many transactions are free, how do you then as a business make money? And I think that's most probably the really important question, is that as consumers, I think that's the kind of work and digging we need to do, is to understand how these businesses work, to understand how banks across the country make money. And often I think the devil's in that detail. And the reality is that even some of the transactions where we don't charge the customer, the way this business model works, the way the industry works, is that there are some revenue that's generated off the back of those transactions, and that revenue is then shared across the parties. So, and a very typical example is the most probably the most famous banking transaction in the country, and a simple card swipe. And it's often said you get free card swipes, but the reality is every time a card is swiped, whichever card that is, that bank makes money, whether they charge the customer or not. And we've always been a big believer that we don't necessarily have to kind of charge customers double for things we would ordinarily make money from as a business anyway. So that's exactly how we think about it. And then you'll see that there are some transactions we do charge for those. So obviously from a revenue perspective, TymeBank makes some money from the transactions we do charge. But even on the transactions we charge, really what we try and commit ourselves to is always having a free alternative. And I suppose a case in point is that if one looks at a cash withdrawal and you use an ATM, yes, there's a fee attached for TymeBank customers, and it's our most expensive transaction. It costs the customer 10 Rand per 1,000 Rand, but there's a free alternative. Customers can then withdraw cash at our Pick n Pay and Boxer stores for free. So we always try and endeavor as much as we possibly can, where we have to charge, depending on how the costs we incur to provide that service. We always try and make available a free alternative.
Okay, and I think what happens then is that customers tend to complain because they haven't seen what looks like fine print. Why make it so fine? Why make the print so difficult for people to understand and see? All this jargon. I've spent 11 years now, Cheslin, in financial journalism, and sometimes I read statements and I'm just like, oh my goodness, really? Could you not just have said that a little easier?
Yeah. So I agree with you, Arabile, So I mean, and I think I've also been in the industry for long enough, and a lot of the reason why we do what we do, employees of TymeBank, is because of kind of where we come from and what we want to change. And I think what has always been the case in the industry in the country is that I think intentionally, without trying to come across as too biased, is that it's been made that complex. And I think with that level of complexity, what happens is us as consumers, we ask less questions. And like I said in the intro, I think one of the most important things for us as consumers is to increase our curiosity around these things, is to ask these questions. And I think it's well within our right to hold all our service providers accountable, whether you bank with TymeBank or not. I think you should hold your financial institution accountable for what they charge you, for your understanding on what they charge you for. And again, if I speak about the way we've chosen to do this, if you just look at our pricing, it's all in inverted commas fixed pricing. So it's whole numbers firstly, so it's 3 Rand, 6 Rand, 9 Rand, 10 Rand. And we don't have any of these percentage-based pricing, which is often referred to as ad valorem. And if I make a practical example, there are many banks in the country still charge you, let's say, R1.20 for every R100 plus 6% over 1,000 Rand. Now, good luck calculating what your actual fee for a transaction of that nature is. And it's one of the reasons why we've chosen to go simple. We believe it's massively important for consumers to know what they pay for, to know what they get for that fee, because that gives them the control. Because suddenly when you're looking at your statement and you see a transaction, and the immediate next line in your statement is the fee charged for that transaction, the reality is you're empowered to ask yourself, do I want to pay that fee next time? If that answer is no, you'll have a look at what the alternatives are. And it's another very subtle but deliberate thing we've done is when we design what we call a pay as you transact. So you pay for certain things, but we charge you that fee immediately. So if you're doing a transaction that costs you something, you'll see it immediately, and it's not aggregated, and you don't get one silly SMS at the end of the month that says, oh, you've paid 60 Rand this month, and you have absolutely no idea what makes up the 60 Rand. And that's, again, massively important for us to be as transparent as possible and to keep our pricing as simple as possible. Because, again, knowledge is power, and the more we believe our consumers and our customers understand what they're paying for, but more importantly, what they get for that, I think that puts the power back in the consumer's hands.
Yeah, sounds about right if you ask me. I think that's absolutely what we've needed in many instances, right? And many people believe that without it, they kind of lose a sense of why banks are the way they are and why we should continue with them as they currently stand. It's that time, though, where we're going to allow and let everybody else who's listening as well get in on the conversation. This isn't really about us dictating to you the kind of conversation you really want to have, but really you, asking the questions and you dictating what exactly is going to be spoken about as well. So I do believe we do have a few people who have requested or asked to be put on to kind of share their sentiments. If we can perhaps get into that interaction now and get a few of those questions. All right, not sure who the next speaker is, but please do just say your name, your surname, and then please, if you could also then ask your question.
Hi guys, it's Ignatius Mtutus Masondo. My question is, when you lost the card, they charge you like some certain banks it's 70 Rand, some is 60 Rand. How much do you guys charge for a card when it's lost or broken?
I'm going to even add to that question and say, why must you charge me for a card that I lost? It's not my fault.
Yeah, true.
So again, thanks for the question, Ignatius, and thanks for the add-on, Arabile. So yes, we do charge for a replacement card, and our fee is 60 Rand. As well as far as I know, based on some of the research we've done, it's also the cheapest in the market to replace that card. But we also give customers their first card for free, and if Arabile, we do charge for lost cards. We do do ever have a process on if the card is damaged or stops working, not as fault of your own. We do have a refund process for that fee, but we do charge for a card replacement fee. And why we do that is that little piece of rectangular plastic is actually quite expensive. So we actually want our customers to think of, I suppose, take greater care of it. So obviously we don't want lots of negligence around it. But we also know that sometimes things happen, right? But it's actually an expensive piece of plastic, and we don't necessarily get into that detail. But simple things like enabling with tap and go, that's essentially what they refer to as NFC, near field communication technology, and those things come at a cost. So if we were to kind of make all of those things free all the time, it would then be very difficult to provide other services for free. Because as businesses obviously work, you've got to make sure you can cover your costs to also obviously stay afloat, and that's massively important for us. So when we look at all of these things, it's about definitely getting that balance right as well.
Yeah, I mean, we make the joke, of course, but it is the understandability that certain things do of course have the cost, and I think it's that realization of where the cost lies, where the benefit kind of sits as well for the consumer in navigating through that space. So it's not just about you having to pay for the card, but understanding why that is, right? The technicals that perhaps go into it. You don't have to understand all of them in terms of what is in the plastic, etc. But what that card can actually do is still an important process and can be quite costly too. All right. With that, then let's head on over to the next question. Thank you so much for that, Ignatius. The next speaker as well, please do say your name, your surname, and just then address us with your question.
I see the next speaker is just connecting, Arabile, so we've granted access and they're connecting. And just for others, we do see you guys, and we'll definitely approve your request as soon as the current speaker is done.
Yeah, and Danilo, I promise you we're seeing it, and we will do our best to to answer your question as well, Danilo. We see that. All right, Morisana.
He's changed. Put Danilo on.
All right, I see that Morisana is still connecting in the meantime as well, so maybe a few technical issues on that one too. If I maybe just come in here perhaps and just talk about,
What's up, guys?
using
Hello?
Okay, we seem to have somebody on the line. Please say your name and your surname before you continue with your question.
What's up, brethren, comrades, compatriots? I'm calling all the way from China. I saw Time Bank on the internet, and I'm like, wow, I really need to open an account there, Yeah, a lot of the issues that you raised was like, I really like the idea that you're lowering the fees. It's my money. I mean, you understand, like my hard-earned money. You are a custodian of that money, so you should not be charging me a lot of fees, And I think a lot of people should wake up to that. And if Time Bank really does, offer lower fees, then go with Time Bank. People are tired of bullshit, man. You understand? All those beautiful buildings in Sandton, they are paid from people's hard work and sweat, selling fucking oranges on the street. So come on, man. Come on. So lower fees, yes. Amandla aware too. Time Bank, join it. As long as the fees are lower, okay? Don't shoot us and just lower fees in the beginning and then, like Capitec done. So, but anyway, nice and listening to you guys' voices. I miss home. Hope to come back home soon. Yeah, cheers.
All the way from China, Danilo, thank you so much for that, man. That's very colorful to say the very least. But I guess, guys, one thing we have to be honest about is he's not reflecting a sentiment that isn't shared by many, right? We all want to ensure that we do have the fees that are much lower, and not just sort of a scam to say, yes, they're low for now, but then later on, it changes completely. So I certainly hope that sentiment, I suppose, is one of many and is shared by many.
Yes, Arabina, maybe just jump in there. And again, Danilo, I love the energy all the way from China. There's no mistaking a South African, no matter where they are in the world. So thanks for joining us. And again, just a commitment from us. Absolutely, we committed to making sure we remain the most affordable bank in the country. Does that mean our fees won't increase over time? I'd be an idiot to sit here and say that lie, because the reality is that costs go up. But what I can categorically commit to is that as an institution, we are fully committed to making sure we are the most affordable bank in the country all the time. And maybe just to give you a really a quick example is that I do lots of transactions on Time Bank, and so does many of our colleagues and people I know. And we've got many customers who do more than 100 transactions a month. And their fees are actually zero. And all they've done is they've made use of all the free alternatives, and they've adapted their financial behavior and completely digitized it. So the point I'm trying to make there, depending on how you choose to use your money, how you choose to use your bank account, we've created the environment where customers can bank for free, regardless of volume, provided they choose to transact using all of the free transactions. And if one thinks about it, is sending money from a time bank to a time bank using cell phone numbers are free. EFT, so doing electronic payments from time bank to time bank or to any other bank for that matter, is free. Debit orders from your time bank account, it's free. Cash withdrawals at Pick n Pay and Boxer, it's free. Receiving your salary into the time bank account, it's free. And then the question I ask is, how much more do you actually need to do? Buying airtime and electricity, it's free. You know,
sorry, bro. Sorry to interrupt you. I think the next frontier for Time Bank, there's a lot of money floating around the diaspora. I'm telling you. If you can make it an attractive bank for people living outside of Africa, I know that there's a lot of legal and a lot of loopholes you need to go through, but then if you got our hearts, bro, like they'll be, you'll probably even be bigger than the biggest bank there. But you need to protect us, you understand? And yeah, that's the only thing.
I hear you there fully, Danilo. And I'll be honest, it's something we've been talking about as a business. You know, we use lots of really cool technology to enable our business. You know, I honestly believe we've got the best onboarding or customer origination process in the world. Regulation does make it harder to do it for people living outside of the country or people from other countries living inside South Africa. But it's something we're paying close attention to and constantly looking for ways to optimize in that space too.
Yeah, look, I think that optimization is going to be the critical part then to find, as Danilo said, those new frontiers, right? And I share some sentiment in that, you know, it's finding new avenues to kind of suit or help the customer, the one that is actually looking to do business with you as well. So really, I think those were some really great questions, Danilo. Actually, thank you for that. Hope you all good out in China. Let's get into our next speaker then as well. Please do tell us your name, your surname, and then please share your question.
I think the speaker's name is Essa.
Hi, good afternoon, Cheslin. Good afternoon, Arabile, and good afternoon, everyone listening. I love Time Bank. I love the goal save and the 6% after 90 days. I think that's a great initiative. I just wanted to find out, in terms of Stokvels, do you guys cater for Stokvels in terms of specifically for goal save accounts so that, you know, people can earn a little bit higher interest? I'm not sure if I've seen that product. Is there something that you're working on in the pipeline? I think that's my question to the team.
Thanks. If I'm not mistaken, it's Esther, and we know each other, so thanks for joining.
Hi, Cheslin.
And I think that's a massively important question. We know the importance that Stokvels play in our communities, in our societies. So that's massively important. Is it something we are thinking about? Absolutely. Is it something on our immediate kind of, call it roadmap? Not necessarily. And again, and I suppose this is the challenge for us, right? Is the bank is 32 months old. We've got 4 million customers and growing every day. We're always going to have this issue as what do we do next? You know, and we've committed to listening to our customers and what they ask us for. And we then try and commit to delivering that. This is not the first time the Stokvel question has raised itself. So it's definitely something we are considering as a business. I mean, I can't necessarily give you a date and time as to when it will be available. But what I can definitely say, it's definitely a consideration. We also understand the importance that has, like I said, in our communities and societies. And if we believe we can make a difference in people's lives by providing a product that suits that space, that's exactly what we'll do.
Yeah, I guess I was actually going to ask then, Cheslin, if that, that was really a market you were keen on, and it does offer numbers, but does it offer the kind of business that, I suppose banks in general kind of look at and say that is sufficiently untapped for us to offer the right kind of proposition for?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we'll look at. Arabile, like I mentioned earlier, it's, if you think about how you become a Time Bank customer, it's a less than 5-minute process, right? Be it through our digital onboarding channels, or be it at one of our kiosks in Pick n Pays and boxes across the country. There's some regulation there's some legislation that regulates the stock file industry and how you onboard stock files as groups. And some of those little things make it a little bit difficult to use the kiosk, for example, at the moment. But again, those are things we are constantly looking at. Is there an opportunity for us to optimize? Is there an opportunity for us to enhance? Is there an opportunity for us to work very closely with regulators in maybe changing some of these rules that allows it to make it a lot easier for stockpiles to then start potentially banking with us. So again, there's lots of moving parts in something like that. But like I said, it's something we're definitely looking at. If one looks at, like I said, it's massively important to our communities, to our societies. So just on that basis, it's definitely something we'd have appetite for. But again, like many things, is we need to do the right things at the right time. And like I said, it's something we're constantly looking at.